Ames National Corporation, or ANC for short, is a bank holding company based in Ames, Iowa, consisting of 5 subsidiary community banks with total assets of $1.3 billion. They have a track record of demonstrated productivity and efficiency. As seen here, they have a higher net income per employee over their peers that is statistically significant. They have also achieved significantly higher returns on assets throughout the past 15 years. We set out to learn how they achieved their success by interviewing both people at ANC and also external experts.
In the history of America, community banks have played a really important role, and that role has been, as the name indicates, to primarily finance the needs of the local community.
Community banks are in the business of relational banking, right? So in that sense, they're building, their assessment off of, their personal relationships and knowledge of individuals and even experiences that might be relevant as far as making their judgments that cannot be formalized.
There have been waves of bank consolidation. Bank numbers have declined through time, and there was always this sense that the days of the community bank were numbered, and through time people at different times predicted the demise of the community bank. But again, from what you mentioned in your first question, just about the importance of relationship banking, that there's more to that relationship than simply the size of the institution, and it's not all about simply cost, but there's this I guess it's a kind of value or quality component that goes along with the relationship component, and I think that's what helps sustain community banks as much as anything else.
Ames National Corporation is very aware of the niche community banks have those experts just discussed. Accordingly, they have built their business strategy around customer relationships.
Our commercial people have very strong and close relationships with the people that they deal with. You have to understand their business, you have to be immersed in it and know not as much as the owner does, but you have to know a lot about the company. By having that type of close relationship with a customer, it allows you to respond much more quickly to a customer's request. We've had in the past, people will call up and say, this happened, I need X number of dollars by tomorrow or the next day. Well, a bigger bank where you're relying primarily on, just the numbers, you don't have as close a relationship and as close an understanding. You can't respond to that because you don't have the comfort level that you have by knowing that individual, not only as a business person but as an individual. So I think the thing that brings that this community bank brings to the table is our ability to respond much more quickly because we understand the business and have a closer relationship with the customer.
First Nationals, our connection to the community is one of our most important aspects. They're the type of institution that really does care about community, and not only do they care about it, they back it up. They're the ones that are actually investing in the events that are happening in the community.
Because customer and community relationships are central to a community bank's success, the bank leadership needs to ensure they are not lost when successors take over.
A really good company always has or works to develop some internal successors, in part because the risks of appointing someone who is well known to the organization to the senior most spot tends to be probably a little lower than the risk of going out to the market and selecting a CEO, let's say, based on a panel of interviews even over many hours.
Well, there are different kinds of succession planning, and I'm not quite sure what the context is for your study with community banks, but I know it's something that is best not left to chance. And certainly in my experience at the Kansas City Fed, we gave a lot of attention to succession planning, and it's not just a matter of hoping to find the right person for the right job, but rather to make sure that you have individuals that have the right collection of experiences, the right collection of skills, and that you're ensuring that individuals as they mature in the organization, are developing those skills. It's a very active program. It's not passive. So that when it comes time for a succession to occur, you have people that are well trained, well prepared to step into whatever role might become available.
Ames National has taken action to ensure employees are well prepared to lead the bank in the future. This creates a talent pool from which they can draw from.
If we can, we like to grow our own, because then we know what we've got, we know what kind of skills they have, they understand the culture, they understand the community, the customers, the relationships, and the strategies that we have in place to grow and to move forward. And we encourage them to take leadership roles. If you look around most small communities in Iowa, the banker is involved in leadership roles in just about every organization in the community. And they may not, if they're not doing that today, they've either done it in the past or they'll do it in the future. So we just encourage people, and it's one of those things, you start to see who's willing to go do it, who enjoys it, who's good at it, and that starts to help build your understanding of what kind of leader the individual is actually going to be and develop into. We send them to schools, we get them into peer groups so they can meet with other people that do the same types of jobs that they do in banks around the state and around the area. We send them to national schools where they can go. So you start to get exposed to a broader field than just the area that you work in. Then internally, as we work on strategic plan, we pull in people to work on different strategic planning teams, and they have a cross-section of experience and knowledge, and that helps them grow as well. We're now as a little smaller company, but we've just hired a training and development director. So we'll start to formalize a program of trying to do leadership development and training so that we can start to deliver those things in-house.
For a perspective from the employee's point of view, Nick Johnson, who's been with the bank only 4 years, shared his experience.
Working in an organization like Ames National or First National Bank, you do have that flexibility that there are a few different routes that you could go. It's probably been an informal process. I think probably the most important thing has been, working with John Nelson and having that relationship with him, and he's a great teacher, and I think just having him as a resource, having the ability to just kind of walk down to his office and say, hey John, what are you seeing in the fixed income market today? Having someone with that level of experience, having that open door policy has been just invaluable. And so, that not only helps our trust customers, since I'm better informed on the fixed income market, but it helps me individually as I move forward in my career.
The effectiveness of ANC's strategy and culture might best be demonstrated in mergers and acquisitions when they bring another company into their organization.
There is certainly a First National Bank culture, and one of the things that the bank has been successful doing is acquiring different banks and kind of instilling that culture.
Really, when you talk about mergers and acquisitions, it's really important to identify the people that have those relationships that we talked about earlier as our strategy, that we want those folks on board. Because the last thing we want to have happen is we buy a bank and then another competing bank buys away the senior lender, and then the customer relationships go with.
The important thing that we look for, we're an organization that's fairly, we're very efficient, so we don't have a lot of extra people sitting around. So when we make an acquisition, one of the things we look at is who's leading the bank that we're acquiring. We had an instance where we acquired a bank, and before we would sign the deal, we went to the two individuals at the bank that were the market president and the senior lender, and we got them to sign on a non-compete agreement and agree to come to work for us before we signed the agreement to buy the bank, because we knew that if we didn't have those two people, we couldn't be successful through the acquisition.
And the results were exceptional. After Reliance was acquired in 2012, the bank's performance increased significantly, demonstrating the success of ANC's strategy and culture.